show regarding Gus is like only the best, right? Like, you know, I love Lisa so much. She is someone who, ironically enough, after my, it just perfectly timed, because after I shared on the show, I think it was yesterday, that I was thinking about getting into more like self-help talks, public speaking, like away from just the cynicism and the escapism and the kind of, the insincerity of stand-up comedy that is so much of what attracted me to it initially, because you can cut everything that's painful with a joke and then you don't have to like go to the pain. And now that I've like been more into going to those places, like it makes sense that stand-up comedy for me was the perfect outlet to tell the truth that was in my heart, but also not really go to the painful places, because what is comedy? I mean, it helps us cope with pain by like not actually addressing it, if you're being honest with yourselves. Like, yes, it's very therapeutic. Clowns in hospitals, like kids need to laugh. Like laughing is good for your stress and your just everything, your health. But I think that a lot of times it's a defense mechanism. And I found that that's one of my biggest pet peeves of hanging out with comics, is that you can't get a real conversation off the ground because there's always someone that's going to throw a joke in, everyone laughs, and then everything resets. And so you can't go back into that uncomfortableness that was just there. You know, like life is so uncomfortable that, you know, I hate to reference Louis here, but I mean, Louis C.K. actually did give me so many things in life that I refer back to. He also taught me that I was very lucky to not have penises pulled out in front of me, but because of all the guys I hung out with after shows and went up to their hotel rooms to like smoke pot or just hang out and write jokes. Like, I just got lucky that no one did that to me. But there's like pieces of wisdom. I remember reading something about, like, he was just talking about phone screens. Maybe it was in his bit about like his kids on phones and stuff, and him being just an amazing dad, which is always if you've ever noticed with certain comedians, like the world around them is crazy, but they're a good person. And when they do reveal bad things they do, they're always, actually for him, Louis did actually admit to some things that I'm like, wow, it's great to hear you say that you're a bad person. But the extent of it, I don't think we ever really reached. That aside, did he owe that to us? I don't know. My point is, I was reading an article about how he would run 5 miles every day. And that, to me, I'm not into that. But what he said was like, there would be a point in it that he would want to quit. Like, when you're running 5 miles, no matter how, like, it's especially someone with his build, like he knows that is the amount of miles where there's always going to be a point where he's like, fuck this, everything, my body's telling me to quit. The uncomfortableness, where it's like you have it in you to get through it because you've done it before, but you got to persevere past that. And that doing that every day would teach him that when there was a time on set where he would want to throw in the towel after a long shoot day, or there's like, sometimes I reference that all the time. It just taught him he can persevere. Like, I know that SEALs, I remember there was something about like the SEAL team or something. They always say that when you want to quit, like when you're working out and you're in like a spin class, let's say one of those insane classes that I refuse to take, that is just makes you want to pass out and like vomit because you're so exhausted, you have 7 times that amount in you before your body will really quit. They say it's just so much, it's mental fatigue. And I always reference this, but I love this. There was a Radio Lab about an endurance runner, this woman who would run, these 120, 200-mile races. And she was a runner before that, but never competed at that level. She was in a car accident, or something happened to her brain where a part of her brain was injured that had to do with short-term memory. So she was regenerating. She'd forget where she was constantly. She had long-term memory, but her short-term memory was constantly restarting. And so she all of a sudden was able to do endurance runs out of nowhere. Like, she went from being like maybe a half marathon runner to like these 200 milers, and she could just go. And the thing that they discovered was that so much of our exhaustion when we're working out is because we know how long we've been doing it. So when you think it's the beginning constantly, you have this energy of it's the beginning. And when you don't know where you are in something, a road trip, say you're on the last hour and you're just like, ugh, or you have 2 hours left. The 2 hours are always the worst because it's not an hour. Hour, you get like a surge because you're like, it's almost the end. But let's say it's like halfway through and it's maybe a 10-hour road trip. Sometimes when I'm on a run or a road trip like that or a long trip or an exhausting day, I think about what's the energy I can bring to this that I had when I first started. That's more for runs. I did it the other day. I was at the last mile of my run and I was really trying to clock in at a speed I wanted to do. I wanted to beat the speed, and I don't look at my time. I'm just kind of like, wait till it's over, and I go, did I do it? And this last mile, I was like so tired. I was like, just give up and just know that it's going to be slower. And I was like, wait a second. Let me just pretend like I just started running. And I swear to God, I looked at my map later on where it shows how fast you were. That moment, because I remember where I was, the tree I was looking at when I go, just pretend it's the first one. Remember that Radiolab episode where that girl had a short-term memory and she could do infinite amount of miles. And I was able to like conjure some speed that I didn't know I had. And that brings me back to the Louis thing of like the uncomfortable, like we just don't want to be uncomfortable ever. And that's what's so helpful about our screens. It offers us an immediate distraction from whatever feelings bubbling up inside when I reach for that like handful of food that I'm just going to mindlessly eat when I'm watching. Like the things we do, we're checking out because we don't want to feel, because feelings are scary and like they're the worst and we don't know what's going to happen on the other side of them. Sometimes I'm like, if I start crying, I'll never stop crying and then I'll drown in my tears, which doesn't happen. You don't die from feelings. No one's ever died from feelings, although maybe there's some research behind that. But I just feel like I'm really excited to talk to Lisa today because she's someone who was... you guys, I'm not kidding you when I say her and Louis C.K. are the two people I went to go see live when I was in Kansas City, going to school in Lawrence, Kansas, a comic at the Stanford & Sons Comedy Club. As, you know, an MC there, I would get to go to shows for free. And Lisa Lampanelli was one of the first comics I MC'd for. But before that, she came through the club, you know, and I went to go see her with Kirsten, my friend who you know. And I remember just how rapid fire this woman was in a way that, you know, it wasn't me being naive and like, wow, like I could tell the difference between good and bad comedy back then. I really could. And she was just someone that had a line for everything. And, you know, she probably had most of the room convinced that she was coming up with this stuff on the fly, including me. But even looking back thinking, how did she have a line for that guy and that guy's shirt and that guy's hair and that girl's top and like just nonstop jokes. And it was because, I mean, she had written those jokes and used them and crafted it over time. But there was no one I could say that killed harder than her that I've witnessed. There's been very few. It was Louis and her that I witnessed there that like blew the roof off the place. And I was gasping for air. There's few comedians that make me gasp. And she's been one of them. And she also would say the most offensive things. I mean, very much cancelable for the stuff that she used to say. The slurs she used to really go there. And then, you know, the roasts, she's a predecessor of mine that was someone I watched when I would prepare for the roast and say, if I could only get to that level. And someone also who took a lot of shit on the roast. It's one thing to be a woman on these roasts. It's one thing to be an older woman who is like the one that's going to be the brunt of all fat jokes because she's a size bigger than the other girl on stage. So like one girl has to be fat. You got to have a fat woman on the dais because, well, that's just such a gold mine. So she took a lot of abuse. She gave it back. She obviously was in a lot of pain. And then I did the roast of Ronnie the limo driver with her on Stern. And this was the first time I had really come in contact with her since I worked with her in Kansas City. And I avoided her when I worked with her because I was not one of these comedians that was like, will you watch my act? Can I have advice? I was just like, I suck. I'm going to stay out of the way and just learn what I can. And I met her at Stern. I was so nervous. I was doing the roast of Ronnie the limo driver. It was my, I think, first appearance on the show itself. And it was Jim Brewer, me, and Lisa backstage. And Lisa was so nice. She had like a short haircut. She dyed her hair green or blue or something. And she was like, this is my last roast. This is my last time. I'm quitting stand-up. And I'm announcing it on the show. I was like, what are you talking about? You're quitting stand-up. She's like, you'll hear all about it. And then she goes up there. She slays on the roast. And then announces on Howard Stern while I'm sitting there that she's quitting stand-up and getting into self-help. She has a new podcast coming out called, what is it called? Something Losers?
It's out. It's called Losers with a Dream.
Losers with a Dream. I'm so excited about this podcast, but she's doing it with two. Noah, correct me if I'm wrong. She's doing it with two up-and-coming stand-up comedians.
Yep.
And Losers with a Dream. First of all, her use of the word loser. She's loser. Like, she used to say that all the time in her act of, like, she was brutal, man. No one scared me more with how she could talk. Now, this podcast is about her kind of discovering, her coming at stand-up comedy and kind of talking to them through the lens of, like, I've been through it, and maybe tempering some of their enthusiasm or giving them lessons for what is coming, and probably having a little bit of, like, oh, God, I kind of miss it. What's it like out there? And maybe I want to ask her about that, too, because as much as I worry about stepping away from stand-up comedy ever in my future, because I've known nothing else, there's part of me that goes, I can always go back. Lisa can always go back. These farewell, we can all have Cher's first farewell tour. You know what I'm saying? Losers with a Dream. Is that it?
Yeah.
Losers with a Dream. Guys, subscribe to this right away, like right now. Stop everything you're doing. Subscribe to Losers with a Dream. We're going to ask Lisa how this came about, what the show is, because I think it's right. If you're listening to my podcast, Lisa's doing what I'm kind of like headed towards. And whatever you think about Lisa Lampanelli, put it aside for a little bit. And maybe you already know her through my You Up podcast, through You Up on Sirius, but put it aside. And maybe go familiarize yourself with her a little bit and watch some of her roasts and see how much this woman has changed. And I don't know. I don't believe in, I do believe in signs, and I believe in God and a higher power. And that to me means like no free will more than like a guy in the sky. But I take my life, like things have been happening to me that are sending me in the direction that I'm meant to go in. And guess what it all came from? It all came from a bunch of hate I got on the worst night of my life. And everything that has precipitated that worst night of my life, which was less than 2 weeks ago, has been all of these signs that I'm going to be doing, I'm going towards what is good. And if you don't want to come with me, that's fine. And I'm excited to get advice from Lisa about this. Don't worry, besties, I'm not going anywhere. This is the most gratifying thing that I do. And that is not taking away from my live performances, which you should all get a ticket to, because who knows if this is my farewell tour? Who the hell knows? But I'll tell you one thing, I'm free as hell on stage. I'm excited. And Andrew knows none of it. Well, he knows a little bit of this. We talked about it last night. Andrew and I had a great night last night with our besties. Let's bring in Andrew. Andrew!
Did you know there are thousands of active cults in America today?
Political cults, sex cults, acting class cults.
But do you ever wonder, who are the individuals who get manipulated into them? I'm Liz Iacuzzi.
I'm Tyler Meesom. Was I in a Cult is a documentary podcast showcasing the raw, dynamic, and inspiring firsthand stories of individuals who got in.
And most importantly, got out of a cult.
The truth is, cults are never what they seem.
Because what you sign up for is not what you get.
This is what happens. God sends a she-bear.
They'll find a way to sedate you. Sometimes you would hear kids being beat for it seemed like hours.
I remember people literally running out of the class screaming.
Go into the temple and have roast beef with Jesus.
So we then turned our calorie deficit into something that meant more, because Keith likes his girls skinny.
Why are people so obsessed with cults?
Maybe because it could happen to anyone.
And we should know.
Because it happened to us. Listen to Was I in a Cult every Wednesday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Get your tickets now for the daytime stage at our iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Samsung Galaxy.
Saturday, September 18th at Area 15, Las Vegas' new entertainment and events complex. A mind-blowing experience.
The hottest new stars from all genres of music perform live on the daytime stage.
Don't miss The Babies, Olivia Rodrigo,
The Kid Leroy,
Sweetie,
All Time Low,
24K Golden,
Russell Dickerson,
Youngblood,
Gabby Barrett,
Tate McRae,
Conan Gray,
Addison Rae, and more. The biggest artists in music come together for one weekend in Las Vegas.
Get your tickets for our 2021 iHeartRadio Music Festival, including the daytime stage, at AXS.com.
Presented by Samsung Galaxy. Samsung wants to remind you that on August 11th, there's only one question you should be asking yourself. Are you ready for this life? Something big is brewing. Find out more at samsung.com/reserve.
Okay, audience, do you love trivia?
Do you love the hit podcast, Stuff You Should Know? Then you'll love the new Trivial Pursuit game, Stuff You Should Know Edition. With 600 questions from the hugely popular Stuff You Should Know podcast, this game is packed with weird and unbelievable trivia inspired by topics on the show. You'll be challenged by brain-busting questions in 6 fascinating categories, including myths, legends, and conspiracies. And SYSK selects a mix of topics handpicked by podcast hosts Josh and Chuck. It's perfect for 3 to 6 players and adults from ages 16 to 116. If you love the Stuff You Should Know podcast, or you're just curious about the world, grab your copy of the Trivial Pursuit game, Stuff You Should Know Edition today, wherever you get your favorite board games.
You know the final score. Now listen to the NFL podcast that tells you why it happened. Starting September 14th, Dan Orlovsky, Scott Pioli, and me, Bob Wischusen, are tape heads, going inside the coaching tape and giving fans the answers.
Don't talk to me about quarterbacks and say they can make all the throws. Make the right one at the right time. That's something that he does really well.
Regardless of what the hierarchy is, folks in the personnel department, including the general manager, need to be servants to the head coach.
Well, here's the question I want to ask. Why do you all lie to us and tell us that these rookies aren't going to play?
Do they have a skill or trait that is going to allow them to survive?
Bob's going to bring me back to my good years at the Jets.
Yeah. Were there some?
Heck yeah. Come on, AFC Championship.
I also believe this closes the gap between them and, those other top-tier teams.
Listen to Tapeheads, premiering September 14th on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, Andrew.
Good morning, Nikki.
Oh my God, the color scheme over there is popping off, dude.
I like colors.
The green hat, the purple shirt. You got a lava lamp in the foreground of the.
I look like a human lava lamp.
You kind of do.
I have the body of a lava lamp.
That's so funny. The girls in Cosmo magazine, you read about what kind of shape you are, and it's like apple, pear, lava lamp.
Is lava lamp really?
No, but it should be.
I do feel like my body, depending on like the amount of soy sauce I have or the amount of water I drink, and I know a lot of it could be in my mind looking in the mirror, but I feel so much softer within minutes of treating my body like shit. Like it's like instant for my body. It's weird.
Why do we do it then?
Because it tastes so good.
I know. My body also goes through like softer phases, but it's always associated with, it's because I've been eating more, or it's because I've been eating, I can't know what I crave. Sometimes you just crave soy sauce or like something salty. And you know what? If it makes your body puff up, as long as you're not like doing it and it's painful as you're doing it, I think that or the pain on the other side is like if you can handle being a little puffy, then fucking eat your soy sauce. Like if it's causing you so much immense pain on the other side, that then you might need to take away that pleasure that you get from the soy sauce, right? But like it doesn't.
I got a question. When you used to drink, I swear to God, if I had 2 beers and 1 shot, like something not crazy, I would wake up in the morning and look like I got ran over by a marching band that was on top of a train. It was...
There we go. There's that classic Andrew.
I saw your face and it made me want to...
I was like, Andrew, come on. You got to nail this. You got to stick this, babe.
I could feel it.
No, you did. When you said marching band, I was like, he's already got it. He's gonna do it. It was almost like watching a gymnast, like how sometimes the commentators when gymnastics know they're gonna stick it before they even stick it.
The crates.
I knew you were gonna stick it because I
saw in your eyes, like, come on, like you're a Russian coach, like, come on.
I was the coach. I was Katie Ledecky's parents. Where they go in the stands. Have you ever seen that footage? No. I think it's her parents. They would be like.
But dude, there's some people that can drink like 50 beers and the next morning they look like $1 million.
I'm Puff Daddy today. My face, I was on a
take that.
I was on a FaceTime earlier with a friend, and I was like, it was hard to look at my face. It was causing me to have all of these kind of like, everyone watching at home or listening at home, when your face isn't what you want your face to look like. It's that hungover kind of face, too much salt, like didn't get enough sleep, maybe got too much sleep face. And I'll tell you, man, like I just laugh at it now.
Yes.
Like the acceptance over it leads to so much less, because you know what? This is my fucking face. There's literally nothing I can do about it right now today. Yes, I can drink more water today, but nothing in the immediate moment is going to change my face. And I just gotta laugh because instead of going like, oh, I look disgusting, because I'll tell you, that was my first instinct this morning. You know, I wasn't in the best mood. I had to get on this call I didn't want to be on. Then I see my fucking pale face that's puffy, and I look like all the things that I see myself turning into that I'm scared of. It was on that camera. And I just didn't let myself go down there because I got a podcast to do. I got an interview to do. I'm going to maybe try to go rollerblading with a friend. This whole day will be fucking ruined if I let myself go to a place where I go, you are disgusting, and I let that in. Instead, listen, I did look disgusting.
I know, but rollerblading,
But to go rollerblading, you got to be in a good mood.
No,
that's
you do.
That's going to lead to a lot of
But
consternation.
I like the idea of like, I got a puffy face. I can't rollerblade today. I can't.
But you know, that's so funny.
I agree. I see what you're saying, though. I do.
Used to, in high school, my friends, I remember the first time my friends, this was, I mean, now I think this is probably a regular occurrence for girls, but I remember my friends did not have body image issues like I did. I was the first one to get them. And I remember there was a pair of jeans that for the first time, they weren't fitting. And I was putting them on to go to the mall or go do something with my friends. And I threw myself on my bed and I was sobbing because these jeans were so tight. They just felt uncomfortable. And I just
Were your rollerblades on when you were trying them on?
Yeah, and that might have been the problem, honestly, as I was trying to get those wheels past the knee.
Oh, it's tough with the brake.
This was in the age of like, you know, wide leg. No, they were just. I remember they were Express brand jeans, and they had a stretch in them already, and they were so tight, and it was just. I was in 11th grade, actually.
Did they fit like a month before that?
Yeah, I mean maybe a day before. It was just, you know, I was probably ovulating, my body was puffing up, whatever it was, and I remember hurling myself on the bed, sobbing. And my friends, I get this a lot. I hear the silence from people who are trying to comfort me of like, this is out of our realm of, we need to call in a specialist because this is, I mean, I've heard it from you before. You've heard the sobbing, the like wild hatred. And it always stems from my looks. Like you've witnessed it. And that was the first time I remember going, I can't go to the mall because my jeans are too tight. And it wasn't because they didn't fit or that there weren't other jeans I could put on. It was those jeans. And it wasn't like I needed to wear those jeans. It was just, I knew I was fat and it was uncomfortable with my body. And I said, I can't go to the mall. And I remember the how dumb that is because my body, it moves. I have clothes to wear. That doesn't make sense to not be able to go rollerblading because I feel ugly today. But I would say most everyone understands that feeling of like, I'm so fat and ugly, whatever that means for you. It could be too skinny. Like there are days when I feel like I'm too skinny or I'm too old looking to go out. Like my mom, I know, feels that way sometimes of like, I can't go to this party because I look too old. And it's like, well, you're 65, so you're old.
But it is a college party. It's a frat house.
She's been at a kegger, but you know, she's a fun lady. And
she is a fun lady.
If you blur your eyes, she has the stature of and the kind of body movements of a freshman. That you can take advantage of. Because listen. How do you think I was conceived?
Yeah, you know what I've done recently is I stopped with the mirror. Like I feel like like Instagram, like if you could lower, we should look at our usage of mirror time. Because I think if you can lower your percentages of mirror time of like looking at yourself and dissecting yourself or whatever that is, it's not healthy. There weren't mirrors back in the day. They would have to look at a shadow and they'd be like,
your reflection in the pond. That's Narcissus. You know that he saw his reflection in the water, and it was like that was the only mirror, and he became obsessed and wouldn't eat and like just. And he got really cut and like super hot, and then he couldn't stop looking at how fucking his jawline popped out. Even the fish were like, what?
Then he got so many disciples.
So many fucking disciples, and I was trying to think of something likes in that word. Train, marching band.
Boom! Ham drip.
Ham drip, and But it's so interesting because I just was saying before you got in here how I am really tired of how comedy just takes the sincerity out of everything. I love comedy because it's helped me deal with so much pain.
And you're great at it.
Just like and because I'm good at it. But like, I was also good at binging because that got rid of the pain. Like I was good at that too. And it served me. Like I'm grateful that I was able to have anorexia and my binge eating disorder because I don't look at that as like, or the fact that I would abuse pot and alcohol. Thank God for those things because the other side, if I wouldn't have had those things, I had no way of coping with it or like I would have reached for something more dangerous. Those were always the lesser things because I was trying not to die.
Yes.
But I think those were I reach for those instead of a gun or instead of a bridge.
Oh, so you're saying comedy soothed when you were really in pain?
Yeah, like comedy was the first thing that's people are in pain, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I'm not in as much pain.
I want to sit in that uncomfortableness. I want to get through the pain. I don't want to need to cut it with a punchline. I want to be able to present things to an audience and have them sit in it. And that's the thing. I can sit in it, but I want to protect other people from being in pain. So that's why I always have to go, JK. But I'm tired of doing that, and I kind of want to force people to be more uncomfortable. However, I'm not ready to do that yet. But what I was just saying was interesting because you said get rid of mirrors. To me, that's locking up the food and preventing yourself from doing the thing you want to do. Whereas opposed to... Or that is...
As opposed to looking right in the mirror, right at yourself and being like, this is who I am.
And laughing. I laugh. Like
I get that.
I just want to give this tool to someone because I thought it would never work for me. And and you definitely use this a lot because you use humor with your body. Like, you used to pull up your shirt and show your tummy.
Yeah.
When it wouldn't be like an attractive stance. You'd have your gut out. You would try... And it was like you were leaning into the joke of your body, which, you don't want to go too hard into that because then you're just always a joke. But, on days when you just have a puffy face or a puffy body, and that those days are going to come, and they can go away. It's not like you're just... I don't want you to accept it, or for myself to accept it, like this is the way you are forever. That's not it, but I just go, dude, you look like a man today. Like, I'll look in the mirror and go, like, you're looking like a dude today. And it's funny. Like, it can be funny that, like, my face looks puffy. It doesn't need to be a tragedy that, like, I'm a burn victim that has to, like, come to grips with the fact that this is my new face. And even if I were a burn victim, I think at first I would have a little bit of humor about it. But I just think that the next time, I'm just talking to besties now, the next time you look in the mirror and you want to say, ugh, or... And like pull at your skin, do all of that. Pull up your shirt, like see the problem areas that
literally
you
grab your fat.
Like, you don't need to do that, but like let's take it back as I
pull it over your dick. Pull your scrotum over your penis, guys.
But I just try this for me today, and I know it feels stupid, but if you're my friends, I just want you to do this because when I started doing it, I never thought it would work. And I just want to say I'm skeptical about any of the self-help, like, easy tricks. This one's a good one. The next time you look in the mirror and you, like, are going, like, ugh, or, like, I hate this part, just go, well, that looks hilarious. Just, like, make fun of yourself. Go, like, well, today's not my best day, but we're living. Like, laugh about it. Like, just give yourself a little ease with it.
But that's the thing, we would write jokes about it.
I know, and that's why I'm saying it's so funny that I just said I want to get away from that, but I'm telling people now with my self-help to lean into it. But I swear there is laughter. I'm so grateful for jokes and that ability. Why have I not employed it when I'm alone with myself in the mirror before? I always use it for other people before they can make fun of me. I make fun of myself. Why don't I use it before I can badger and beat up myself and hate myself? Why don't I use it to lessen the blow?
And there is a big difference between making a joke about yourself and really like owning it and like making yourself feel better, as opposed to just making a joke and still being sad about it. Like
I don't think it's different.
No. I'm not saying I'm saying that those two things are different. Like, comedians are like, oh, they're so open and vulnerable. They could joke about themselves. They must be fine with themselves.
Right.
But there's a difference between making a joke about yourself and not really feeling the release from it, as opposed to really feeling the release from really like finding the real humor in it. I'm not even
saying you can you have to feel the release. I want to be very clear about that because that's something that held me up. I was like, look in the mirror and love yourself and tell yourself you're great, and just like, I would have heard this podcast and gone, Nikki, I'm gonna laugh at myself, but I'm still gonna hate my arms and think they're fat. You're allowed to. You're allowed to still walk away from that mirror and just fucking hit your arms. All I'm asking is that you try to make you just tease yourself very lovingly for just one, and it doesn't even need to work. But I swear over time it will work. And you're right, there is a difference because sometimes I go on stage and I talk about what a slut I am, that I have, like I insult myself, and then someone will say it to me off stage, and I'm like, no. Like, you don't get to talk. It's almost about like when you badmouth your family and then your friends do it and you're like, wait, what? And they're like, well, I was just repeating what you said. And you're like, I can do that. You can't. So everyone today, if you hate something about your body, you look down, just go, well, I picked a wart on my leg and now I have a really bad scar. And I bought some Mederma earlier at Walgreens. And let's talk to Lisa Lampanelli about it. Lisa!
Oh my God! Hi!
Hi, babe. We're going to get right into it. Lisa Lampanelli, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to talk to you. You can't even imagine the podcast you're coming into and the subject matter we're talking about. Andrew Collin is here, who you've met before and had a great back and forth with.
Yeah.
You kind of like roasted him last time we were on. Was it You Up?
Yeah, it was You Up. I felt down, but it was great after talking to her. Yeah.
Well, as a retired comedian and retired roaster, just to get little shots in on a podcast is my only fix for pleasure right now in life. So I'll try to resist.
Well, let it fly, because I've been backing off recently because it's become too much for me to do it every day with him. And sometimes because we live together, it has a lot more, it's not so funny as real and like has resentment underneath it. And that's not good for anyone. Awful. And I'm going to rely on you to just just come in and say what I can. I'll text you what there's been some issues recently.
It's really, really interesting because if I had to live with someone, I would kill them than myself. I don't understand how anyone lives with anyone. I think it's just disgusting. And I feel
Have you lived with someone before?
Oh God, yeah, I was married twice.
Oh wait, you have two husbands. Okay.
Yeah, and I would say to them, I'd go, why the fuck are you always here? And they'd be like, because I live here. And I'm like, but I pay all the bills, so get the fuck out. Like, I can't.
Right. Okay, so Lisa.
Yes, I'm just going to...
Right now, I want to just quickly go over some things that people need to know.
Sure.
Well, I already set this up in the top of the show, and I want you to know that you're one of the funniest people that's ever lived. One of the best comedians, the sharpest, the fastest, the quickest, the wittiest, just elite level, Olympic level, like Simone Biles. And you know what? Like Simone Biles, you go, this isn't working for my mental health. Yes. I'm out. Yes. And I talked about how I got to know you closely. I was kind of overly intimidated by you. You come off, a lot of people have a lot of preconceived notions about you being mean and just someone that you don't want to cross paths with because you might be in the line of fire. And I kind of felt that way about you, even though I had seen you and know as a comedian that you're not the same on stage, whatever. And I had worked with you at Sanford & Sons years before, and you were nothing but nice to me, even though I avoided you because I just knew as an MC, you don't want to be like, will you watch my set, Lisa? I was not that kind of comic. And if you're a comic listening, don't be that comic.
Yeah, never.
But Lisa, I met you at Stern. You were so nice to me. And then you told me backstage as we were about to go on, I'm announcing my retirement. And I was like, it was news to me. So you announced on the show you were retiring from stand-up. I know you've covered this a lot before. What led to that decision?
Oh my God, Nikki, I can't even tell you. I've been talking about this and I love it because it really helps me figure out why. And I retired before cancel culture was a thing. So thank God I kind of got out before I was canceled. You would be so
gone, girl.
Oh God. Yeah, it's literally I canceled myself before they could get me. The reason really was, Nikki, I think this is really important, and because I went pretty deep with this, I just started to notice my life. Like we get on autopilot from age whatever age somebody gets achievement oriented or, hey, like me, hey, mommy, notice me. And we get on that, find something that works, feeds that hole inside, and we just stick with it. And at about age 50-ish, I think, which is like 10 years ago, I said, oh, I notice I kind of get bummed out every Thursday when I have to pack and go away. Oh, I notice I don't love doing this kind of humor anymore. Oh, I notice I want to talk deeper with people. I want to connect, and I'm only using comedy to connect and not connecting in my real life. So I was like, I called my business manager. I was like, I don't like this anymore. When can I get out? When will I have enough money? And because I'm smart, I don't want to be poor. Yeah. So I just said, we made a plan. And luckily, I was very blessed with parents who were Depression era, taught us how to save. And I was like, dude, 57, I'm out. And I was stoked because everyone, thank God for Stern, took it very seriously. And I've been allowed to just kind of do what I want.
So you put this plan into place at 50, and then you knew that in 7 years you could have the amount of money that you needed to say goodbye and pursue something else that might bring you also a lot of money, but who knows? You're going to try something new.
Right. Well, I really thought that I would want to do like coaching and storytelling events and things like that. And the hardest part of retiring, I just read a book on this because it's so hard to find support about retiring if you already have, it's not about planning financially, it's about what's the emotional impact of retiring? It's like, you do it wrong 3 times before you get it right. So it's been 3 years of experimenting. What do I want to do? Or do I want to do anything? Dude, yesterday I literally ran 6 hours of errands and it was the best day of my life. So I'm like, what the fuck?
Lisa.
But there's a balance. It's a huge balance because
you said ran 6 hours, and I was like,
oh God,
Lisa, I don't think that's what you should be doing with your life.
Don't worry, I physically hate to move. So I just said, well, but if I did that for a week straight, I'd feel purposeless. And I think what I figured out in retirement is, and it's taken me a lot of tries, 3 whole years of trying and failing, is do everything with a small, purposeful feeling. And you don't have to have purpose with a capital P. So basically, if I live without a goal with a capital G and purpose without a capital P, then I get to just enjoy everything in my life with purpose. So if I'm doing a podcast, or if I'm coaching some comics with writing, or I'm playing with my dogs or gardening or whatever, it all has purpose, but it doesn't look like a huge life purpose, which is exactly how we should all live.
It doesn't look like you're going to EGOT with that. There's no Emmys, Grammys, there's no Mark Twain Prize,
right,
or red carpets with coaching comics. And I know what you're saying. We hear a lot of these things in self-help speak of like the capital P, and it's like, well, what does that really mean? Like, and what you're saying is these things these tangible medals and honors and likes and followers and all the things that obviously we got into comedy to get in the first place was, I mean, I don't know about you. I wanted to be popular in high school. I want people to like me. And it's so ironic though to be someone that all I want is for people to like me. And so much of my act and my persona is that people that don't really know me, not listeners of this podcast, but people think I like to offend people, and that I'm, and you too as a roaster, that was never the goal, to alienate or offend. It was me.
Well, it was the exact opposite, because it was the exact opposite. It was going, how can I connect? Oh my God, look, I just insulted them and they liked me more, because we have a gift to do that. Not all comics can do that. So if you have that innate likability, they go with it. But here's the problem. You do not ever get enough achievement, accomplishment, Grammy nominations, whatever it is that I got, nothing filled the hole. And the fact is, when you take it all away, you have a huge loss, because even with a positive change like retiring comes loss. So any change is loss, and you work through the loss. So I had a huge thing in the last 3 years, not knowing who I was, lack of identity. Wow, I'm walking around going, what do I do? Do I have enough purpose? And it's like, oh, wait, I don't need any. I get to actually live and not prove myself. So these next 30 years, if I have that, I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine if I walked around every day and I didn't have anything to prove to anyone except like, I'm like a nice person. Those are the best. You ever notice those are the best people to be around? And when people start talking about achievement, you just want to like cut them off and go, it doesn't fill this all. Like I have a lot of young friends.
I mean, yeah.
And I'm always like, I'm friends with a lot of millennials because I really think they get it and they understand how to change the world way better. My generation blows. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to be friends with the millennials. I'm the world's oldest millennial. So I hear them talking about, because they're all theater gays, and they're like, oh my God, we want a Grammy and a Tony. And like, inside I'm going, yeah, you'll still hate yourself. So I think it's,
but I feel like they,
can I just stop real quick?
Yeah.
Can we go get the charger for the computer? Because I forgot to charge the computer. It's about to die. And I want to hold this thought. Will you hold the thought that you were just about to ask?
Yeah, the thought.
Okay. Well, I just want to say, Lisa, that's interesting to me that I thought you only entered retirement with the plan of like knowing exactly like I'm ready to fulfill this purpose. So you quit before you even knew what was going to fill that hole, because you quit because you realized you weren't happy anymore. Like that's what that was the first thing. You're packing. You realize I don't want to do this. This isn't bringing me the happiness it's supposed to.
Yes.
Sorry, I want to repeat that. So you're packing. You realize this isn't bringing me the happiness it's supposed to. Then you come up with a plan. You call your business manager. 7 years later, you get the money. You get secure enough to be able to quit. Then it's another 3 years or so before you even find the thing that you feel actually fills the hole that you weren't even really filling anyway with stand-up or any of these achievements. And that is, but I'm wondering, someone like you prepared with a safety net financially to enter it. Yeah. Did you not foresee the emptiness you might feel of? Did you think the only problem was that it wasn't making you happy anymore, and if you just stopped, then you would be happy? Was that
no? I thought when I was on Stern, I think you might remember. I had thought the things I thought I wanted to coach people, life coach, and I thought I was on to give workshops, food and body image workshops, and I did some of that, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm just trying to get achievement from that. I'm just trying to be like working at all these high-end yoga places and be like Little Miss Food and, food and body image consultant and all this crap. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing, insert different career. And I go, you got to stop all of that. And thank God for the pandemic in a way for me, because it was like, oh, all that stops and you got to see what comes in, because what comes in is the connecting to the right things and noticing what does give you a little bit of joy. And again, your life isn't happy all the time, but it's like, oh, today, for instance, okay, this is my day today. Okay. I got to, it's so like ingrained in me to say I got to instead I had to. It just gets ingrained when you work on yourself. I was trying to
becomes common knowledge.
Yeah,
like the thing that is hard to change, those things that people go, don't say you have to, say you got to. You go, okay, yeah, I'll never actually just say that on my own. But you just finally go, oh my God, I don't say I have to anymore. Like these things
really
work.
Yeah. It works because you do it and you finally clear out enough of the trauma that, was holding you back and kept you a victim and you felt put upon. So like today, for instance, my day is, I'm like painting this door in my house very badly. There's no way I don't have to call a professional painter after this shit that I did today. But it was fun. And I go, that was cute. But also, Nikki, I was shocked. Grief came up because I was like, oh, I bought my parents' house and I live in my childhood home and I love it. And I'm like, oh, could Dad have painted that better? Like I felt like I was letting my father down. Right. So the grief comes up. Oh my God, I got to feel my feelings. That was cool. Then I got to talk to you, despite Andrew being there.
What do you do with that grief though? Let's go back to that
cry.
Grief.
You literally, yes.
Okay, but did you just sit there and paint and cry, or did you take a breather and sit down? Did you call someone? Did you journal? Like, I want to know when pain comes up. Sure. What do you do with it? Like, how do you release it?
Okay, I'll tell you step by step. It just happened like 2 hours ago. Okay, so I paint the door because I read all about how to paint a Bilko door, which is a metal door. So I got this cool lime green paint. I'm like, yes, girl. So I go out in my painting clothes and my freaking mask and big lesbian look. And I was like, okay, here I'm doing it. And I looked at it and I was like, I got to call a painter. So I called my friend Cindy had called me about something. She's really spiritual and cool. And I go to her, dude, I think I have to retire the idea of me being an outdoor painter. And she started cracking up and she's like, why? And I just started crying. It just came up because ever since the last 3 years, I've just been working with trauma therapists and getting so much access. The feeling is just calm. So I just go, dude, I'm terrible at it. The door's ruined. She was, well, what's coming up? I said, the thought that my dad would be able to do it better. I'm sad he's not here. He'd probably be not disappointed in me, but like my father would always be like, oh, why even bothering doing that? You have money, pay somebody to do it. Yeah. So the fact is, it just came up. I cried a little. I was like, wow, that was very cool. And just the understanding of it doesn't mean it'll never happen again, but it helps you just pass through it because as we know, you can't go around it. You got to go through it. So then I was able to call you. I was like, this is fantastic. So your day kind of does always look good if you just feel the feelings. I do cry a lot. I cried at every episode of Ted Lasso, even the happy ones.
I was watching it last night, and that's what I was going to just get to about Ted Lasso. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Is that why you found yourself going into self-help. You wanted to get all in the best yoga self-help studios, and you were looking to achieve these the Grammys of the self-help world, let's say, and the Oscars.
Right.
So why can't it be both? Why can't you help people through those classes and coach people through that while also making the big bucks, operating at this like elite level of that? Why can't I understand that it's a kind of like a gross thing and superficial to be motivated by those things more than the helping, but clearly you were still helping people in those seminars that you were giving. So what was it that made you abandon that entirely and go, I want to shift into something that's maybe not as lucrative or as esteemed?
Well, I think it took me I was in comedy 31 years, so it took me about 21 to figure out that it wasn't fulfilling anymore. I found it unfulfilling to do the other stuff. I was good at it, but I was like, oh, I noticed a lot quicker. So now I notice quicker what doesn't work. So I was like, oh, that was fun. Oh, those women gave me great feedback on that. It helped them that weekend, that weekend retreat I gave or whatever. But then I was like, oh, you know what? It's not right for me right now. And it's cool because you get to examine. Like, look, I discovered within an hour that I can't paint and I don't like it. So you just get better.
Yeah, this
practice.
isn't. You didn't take on the whole house and decide to paint it,
Right.
and start taping everything and go. Now you're realizing you get one side of a door done and you go, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
And you can find.
But if you painted for 20 years, you'd become a hell of a painter.
That's
exactly. True. And I also was a hell of a comic.
Yes.
But you want to know what's interesting? If you asked me what I accomplished in my life that meant something to me, and I think I didn't tell you this, I don't think, but a girl was doing her master's thesis one year when I was very famous. She did a paper on me and my style of comedy. And she asked me my 10 biggest achievements, and I'm just naming them. And she goes, do you realize all 10 things you said were about family and friends? It had nothing to do with career. So that's part of noticing, going, oh my God, I'm not even naming the big stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not that it was meaningless. I still get letters from, especially like gay guys and interracial couples and all, saying it really helped them to laugh at themselves and thanks for calling me out and this and that. But so I get it. I was really good. I was a badass when it came to roasting. I cracked up because I had a game night for Labor Day and I print on the back of old roasts and things like that because I don't want to waste paper. I'm so woke now. So I had people keeping score and they go, what is on the back? And they're reading like, thank God for the Jews. And I'm like, oh, that's like roast stuff. So I recognize how freaking badass I was. Like I really had to embrace, whether anyone knows it or not, I literally think I'm a retired legend. Like I literally,
you're an Olympian.
I think so too. And what
you're allowed to be retired. Just because you're good at something and could still do it doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. Like you've already proven yourself. What I was thinking that with Simone Biles, like she already has how many? At what point do we go? That's enough golds, like, or Oscars. I remember when I had a conversation with Jennifer Lawrence once, and after she won an Oscar, she was like, I was really having this moment of like, what next job do I accept? Do I chase the Oscar, the one that's going to win me an Oscar? I already have one. Am I going to double the feeling that I got that night? No.
And by the way, the feeling that night isn't that great.
It's not.
Like, let me tell you the best part. Yeah. Let me tell you the best part of being nominated for Grammys. The first time I fucking hated it because I made a big thing out of it and I had to get the big dress and bring the whole family. The second time I got nominated for a Grammy, I said, I'm not even going to go. It's so stupid. It's never fun. And then I go, wait a minute. My dad had just passed about 6 months before. I said, I'm going to bring my little niece and nephew. We're going to get some of my dad's suits tailored to look like for the red carpet. And we all wore like my dad's clothes, all like zhuzhed up from a tailor. And we all lied and said we were nominated for Best Swedish Folk Band because they're so blonde. And at the time, so was I. And so
what a great night.
So in other words, people listening, all you have to remember is, I don't like platitudes, but you have to sometimes just say them. We are enough. We are born perfect. We don't have to prove one more thing. If I never was a comic, I earned a life. And yes, I never will shit on comedy. Has given me a great career. And thank God, financially, at least I'm stable. But Jesus Christ, enough. Nothing builds the whole like connection.
Do you feel like though, without chasing those goals of a Grammy or being a legend, you know, you got fulfilled in so many other ways because of chasing these, even if they don't fulfill you at the end, like if you're telling a young comic like, hey, don't chase this, then maybe they won't be as motivated to be a great comic and you know what I mean?
No, I get that totally. And what I say to the guys I coach, because I'll shamelessly plug my podcast. I do a podcast.
I've already done it, but yeah, like I talked about the top, but I want to get into I can't wait to talk about this podcast.
This is what's important. Exactly what Andrew said. I'm so thankful Andrew's proving himself useful once.
Man, that door really affected you and it came out on my head.
No, I love you, man. You know I love you. I love you.
I know, it's the best.
No, the way I bring it up, I brought the podcast up because the way it developed was I coach these two guys. And they are, I would say, 2-3 years into it. So they're funny, and I know they're funny or else I couldn't coach them in comedy.
Sure.
Well, the way I look at it is I never tell them chase a high. Thankfully, one of them is in recovery, so he already gets that chasing the high is bullshit. So I go, chase connecting with that audience. Chase the fun. I said, if we don't have 3 listeners to that podcast, I don't give a shit, because Nikki, I have loved 2 things in my life as far as loved every minute of ... When people say that, I loved every minute of planning my wedding because I didn't have a budget and I was fucking rich and I didn't care. And it was so much fun to plan that wedding. And I love every minute of recording this podcast because it's deep, because it's funny, and it's a lot of depth with 2 friends. And here's what I think. Instead of telling them to chase listeners and likes and downloads, I go, don't even look at how many listeners. It doesn't matter if we make 1 penny. I'm already rich. I'm having a good time with you guys. So I discourage having big goals. I encourage the small goal of connecting with that audience and having somebody go, oh my God, I learned a little about myself. Oh, you helped lighten my day. It feels really good. So that's why what happened was, so to segue in, I had met these 2 comics. My niece had asked me to go see them. Now I do anything for my nieces and nephews. So I said, okay, even though, when a niece or nephew says, come see my friend who's a comic, you're going to want to kill yourself because they're going to suck. Right. But I go to see these guys and they're actually pretty good. I start coaching them, but then I overhear their conversations, and they're 2 straight millennial guys. And I'm thinking, I've never heard deep conversations like this from straight men. It is ridiculous. Yeah. So I go, that's a podcast. And I walk away. That's all I said. And then I start thinking, I go, that's a fucking podcast. And I want to go on and read them the riot act and coach them after they talk about deep shit. But if they won't talk about deep shit, I don't want to freaking participate. So they committed to talking about a huge issue every week, like acceptance, vulnerability, fear of success, like all the stuff we really need to unearth within ourselves. And I go, if you can't go deep, then we're not doing it. And dude, every second I have such a blast. And again, of course, like with Andrew, the roasting comes out a little when I tell them.
You got to temper it with jokes, but
I mean, it really is the reason I like it. And by the way, it is once again called Losers with a Dream, available everywhere. And that's, by the way, a roast line. If you remember, I was going
to say you use the word loser so artistically that when I read that title, I heard you going loser. Like it almost hurt my soul to hear it, because it's such the way you would brandish that word was lethal.
Well, it was from an actual. We were sitting down trying to figure out what to call the podcast. I'm like, well, because you're both a couple of losers in every way, except comedy. I said, I'm a loser too, because I don't know what I want to do with my life. If anything, maybe I just want to sit on my ass and paint a fucking door. I said, you know what? In the comedy roast, Nikki, you'll remember, you make fun of the whole dais first, everybody on the stage, then get the roast subject. So I would go, but enough about these losers with a dream. How about William Shatner?
Yes.
So I said, you can take my title, because I just think that's such a funny phrase. So that's what we use.
It's great. It's a great title.
I just picture Martin Luther King saying the same thing. The losers with a dream. Like, it's a different speech. It's a different, I'm still motivated.
Yes, I love it.
Everything about your podcast is what we do here on this show, and that's what this was all built around. Was I just wanted to create a podcast that had no agenda of like having to be comedy. It could be days. If there's days that is not that funny, that's why I have Andrew here, because he's less comfortable in the moments going really deep, so he'll cut it with humor in a way that relieves everyone listening. And sometimes I forget that person listening needs just something to levitate the moment from this depth of like sadness. Because sometimes I get on here and I will cry and get really sad. And it doesn't, like, that's my problem with like therapy and self-help, is that it just has to be all or nothing, and it can't be both. And when you do inject too much comedy, comedy for me, I was just saying, Lisa, because I look at my eating disorder, which I've been in recovery from for a year and a half now. Thank you. I look at that. I never look back and go, God, that sucks that you lost all those years with it. Like, I now look at my addictions as like, thank God I had them. Yes. And I look at comedy like that too. Like, I'm veering towards retiring from stand-up as well. And I'm just starting to like wrap my head around that, because when you first told me about that, I thought there's no way I'll ever do that. I would never want to do that. I'm too competitive. I can't let these young people who are right behind me do better than me. But you know what? People have always been funnier than me. People have always been achieving more than me. It's going to keep happening. And honestly, the pandemic made me not care anymore. Like, I mute the people that trigger me and I forget they exist. And then when I do remember they exist, I go, oh my God, I'm not really jealous of that person anymore. I like wish her a lot of success, actually. And that's just come with doing the work.
Well, it is the internal work. It's all an inside job. And you've seen early on, by the way, you referring to someone as a young comedian makes me laugh because you're the young comedian.
Well, I've been doing it 18 years now.
No, but what I mean is, you're
sure. No, and I know that, but
she looks older in person, Lisa.
I love you so much right now.
I'm going to replace you with a Roomba.
Yeah, they'd be funnier. That damn young Roomba.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's great is I said to you last year on the podcast, you and me did one during the heat of COVID.
Oh, I was so depressed.
And I was in I was going through deep trauma therapy at the time. So that's kind of helped me a lot because when you have to go really deep about like what your real issues are. And I think me and you really talked deeply about, I said to you, Nikki, please do a better job than I did at setting up your life for a better outcome when you're done with this, because I hadn't been as close to people as I should have been. The only rewards I think I reaped from comedy for sure were a good living, but I had to miss these birthday parties of the kids. I had to miss this. I had to miss that. And I'm like, man, from age 50 on is when I actually started, being present in the lives of other people and showing up and working on the big, big issues that are buried down there. Yeah. So I think it's great that you're thinking of the next step. I can't wait.
I'm grateful for you to pave the way. It's so funny to always have you referenced you as someone who paved the way for me in stand-up, and for you to pave the way as like a Simone Biles. Like I was really moved by Simone Biles being like, this is too much. I already have, like, I don't need to do this event, or like, I'm going to just drop out. And it's like the Olympics, you can't drop, Nikki, you couldn't drop out of stand-up comedy when you are getting, given specials and TV shows. And it's like, yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Well,
if I don't like it.
Well, no, of course not. And the great thing is you will have, again, it's not going to be an easy transition, but what I know about you is you can't hide anything. And I like this, and I'll tell you why I'm bringing this up. When we were in that documentary Hysterical,
on FX. What a great documentary. Jesus Christ, you were great in that.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I had many friends call me and say, Nikki was so fucking cool when right after you said you were retirement, they cut to something of you saying, oh my God, she escaped, she got out, something like that. and being like I was a prisoner. So meaning that you feel that way too. And I'm like, all I wish for her, because I send you such love all the time just in my mind. And I'm like, oh my God, like I hope she knows she doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to do. And the fact is, money's great, but does it ever do anything for you other than pay for 7 days a week therapy if you need? Not really. Like,
it makes it so if my parents get cancer, they won't get worse cancer worrying about bills. That to me is what money gets me, is like my mom, when she eventually gets something that's going to take her down, because everyone does.
Sure.
That I know stress when you're physically sick makes your sickness worse. And so whenever we get a diagnosis in the family for someone, the fact that I can maybe bail them out financially will make them live longer. And that's why I accept gigs. Like, that is it. Like,
well, I think
I just need that 7-year plan with my business manager.
Can I ask a question?
Let me say really quickly. I'm sorry. I apologize. I just want to say about that whole money thing. First of all, I had the same goal of you as you did. I remember when my dad got sick, he had like, oh my God, 7 months that they didn't have the money to pay for 24-hour nurses. So I paid for that. And of course, my father insists to pay me back out of the will or whatever. Who gives a shit? So you and I are motivated from the same, in a similar way. We want to take care of the people who we love. And see that.
I'm just kidding. I have I wear a fanny pack.
I know you're not like that at all. But what's funny is people
you need a place to put the ashes.
Yes, true. People don't understand how the people don't understand how I sold all the purses and shoes and furniture, like all the stuff that was bought out of lack, And I listen to the Minimalists a lot, this podcast that I love. And this is so true. They go, you don't have a better life by adding things. You have a better life by subtracting things. And I'm like, wait a minute. If I think back to the things I've subtracted, a husband, 3 houses out of 4, a career, bad friends, impulsive social media bullshit. I'm like, wow. Oh my God, my life's better by taking things out. So, and taking out the purses and the shoes. And then you could do something with that money that helps your dad or your mom. Yeah. And you just go, man, how the hell is my life this happy? So it's through struggle of working on yourself. That stuff doesn't come easy. Those lessons are hard won, but you're already on the track at your young age. I always picture you, I imagine you're about 30. Are you about 30?
I'm 37.
Okay, so you are so ahead of the game. I am so happy for you to even be having this in your consciousness at all right now, because 37, I hadn't even made it yet. So I'm really, I feel I lost some years, but damn it, I'm making up for it now just by sitting around and trying to paint a fucking door. That's what my life.
I mean, it just proves it. I don't think there's nothing, before you retired, there was a little bit of me being like, well, see if she likes this. And if she's really, she's making a move here, but is it because she is not as famous as she was anymore? Now she wants to get out because it's like, I didn't even think those things, but people could have said those things about your choice at that moment to get out. Like, your star was huge. And like everyone in the business, that's another fear of mine, is this being built up, and there's always going to be, the roller coaster has to go back down. The pendulum always swings the other way. So when I get things and people go, second season of F-Boy Island, oh my God, Nikki, you are killing it. You're on tour, selling out theaters. I'm just like, it's going to go away. And I'm not saying that to be a pessimist. I'm just saying I can't get too excited, because when it goes away, if my worth is based on that, or my looks, which are also going to go away, what do I have? So I just like to keep it I'm happy about F-Boy Island season 2, but that show will be canceled someday because it's called F-Boy fucking Island. That's not going to be Survivor or Seinfeld where we walk away graciously. That will be taken from us, from our cold dead hands. So
it'll be warmer on an island.
Andrew, before we go to break, I want you to get in your question, and then we won't answer it and go to break.
So just stop me before, and we could go to break before I'm done even asking. So
I was going to do that. You just ruined my joke, but ask your question.
Let's go to break.
We'll be right back.
The stories that are affecting the Black community are being covered on the Black Information Network. Not a show or a podcast, BIN is a 24/7 news network covering stories from a Black perspective. Listen to the Black Information Network on the iHeartRadio app and get news for and by the Black community. Anywhere, anytime. Keeping you informed, keeping you engaged. The Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Bienvenidos, mi gente. Gloria Estefan here. We are bringing Red Table Talk the Estefans to podcast. Just like our Red Table Talk sisters, we have brought 3 generations together to talk family, relationships, and social issues from the perspective of 3 fabulosas Latinas. Join me with my niece Lily, a beloved Latina TV star and devoted mother of 2. She is Estefan.
You can break my heart, but you cannot take my soul.
And my daughter Emily. She's a talented musician, she's outspoken, and a powerful voice of her generation. She's Esta Fresh.
People need people, but you have to make the first step to say that.
And I'm Esta Fierce. I'm Gloria Estefan. I'm a performer. I've been married for 42 years, have 2 children, 1 grandson, and 5 dogs. Listen to Red Table Talk the Estefans as part of the My Cultura podcast network, available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Strawberry Spring, based on a short story by Stephen King.
Is someone there? I can't see you through the fog. Oh, it's you, thank God. Oh, please! No, don't! Help!
Now, there was a murder on the campus of New Sharon College. Sources close to the investigation tell us that it was a female co-ed, late teens to early 20s. We'll have more.
Hello? Henry, have you heard the news?
Yeah, just now on the radio.
There was a murder on campus. It has all the signs.
Are you telling me?
We can't be sure, but as of right now, it looks like Spring Heel Jack is back.
Strawberry Spring, starring Garrett Hedlund and Milo Ventimiglia. Produced by Audio Up Media and iHeartRadio. Listen to Strawberry Spring on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Andrew, welcome back. Andrew, let's hear your question for Lisa that you've been trying to get out for the past hour.
No, so, you guys talk about, like, all or nothing. You don't like the fact that it's all or nothing. We have a profession, right? Like, if you wanted to do stand-up, let's say once every 3 months or once every 2 months and just get that feel of selling out a show, fucking crushing. Granted, you might not be as good because you're not writing as much, you're not performing as much, so you won't feel as great about your own, your own jokes maybe, but maybe you write some new bits and you just get that feeling of like that high again, right? Like, why do we have to say I'm retired, it's over, done? When we're in a profession that, like, because, like, my dad was a doctor, right? My dad's an oncologist. He retired. Yeah. He ended up getting cancer, actually. He's fine now. He had breast cancer. God. He had big tits. And had to cut one off. But whatever.
He has it in his fanny pack, don't worry. He carries it around now. Andrew does.
Well, it's beef jerky now. But my point is like, He couldn't then go, hey, I'm going to go into the hospital every 3 months and just get that feel of, like, connecting with his patients again. We have a job.
Can I?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You like a long question, which I respect.
Well, it was more of a soliloquy.
No, I do. I like it. I like it. Your monologue was terrific. You don't get the part.
If you cut me, do I not bleed?
Yeah, no, I apologize. Okay, here's my feeling. Why is somebody allowed to do anything? Because they want to or don't want to. So I could tomorrow, my manager says to me, she goes, you're hilarious because I told her only accept gigs where I can talk about myself constantly. So I do a lot of podcasts. I don't want to go on stage anymore. Yes, maybe I can't even imagine wanting to do it again. But if I did, I could be like, let's do it. But you don't do it for the high. I think that's where you and I are making a disconnect here. I don't want to do anything for a high. I want
the high is
this.
Not.
I want. Wait. Let me finish. I want peace, contentment. Does that come from chasing anything? No. I read a quote that was so beautiful. I cut it out. I was like, oh my God, how beautiful it is to not be chasing anything or working for acceptance at anything. And yeah, I do a killer job on that podcast. Believe me, we prepare. We fucking have meetings every week. I'm like, you guys are going to get deep. So I have a great time with it. But I'm like, the high is just being like, oh man, that was really fun. So I've never been a risky person. I've never done anything physically risky. All my risks were on stage. All those risks are kind of bullshitty because it's like, what Lisa, was I trying to prove?
What's the difference, though? Because I think this is what Andrew's getting at. What's the difference between having fun on a podcast and feeling that joy that you get from having a deep conversation with your friends?
Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
You're fine.
Parker, shut up! Okay, go ahead.
Is that your other co-host?
Yes, it is. The mailman's
What's the difference between having fun on a podcast and Andrew's someone who goes on stage and he really... I'm numb to the audience loving me or the applause or the massive crowd. It's not that I don't want people coming to see me thinking like, she doesn't even appreciate us. I appreciate it so much that I feel like I don't deserve it. Like that's kind of how I numb myself because I just feel like an imposter, right? It's not because I resent the audience or think that whatever. I just don't want the audience to hear that and be like, why would I buy a ticket to her show if she doesn't feel it? I just can't let it in because it's too much and I feel like I don't deserve it. Andrew will get off stage and he'll kill for 10 minutes and get off stage and be in a really good mood all night because he had fun and because they liked you. I mean, like, whether your fun is based on if they like you. Let's be honest.
Yeah, sure.
It's not. You can't. Rarely do people bomb and have fun still.
Yeah, and I'm not a truth teller. I'm not like, oh, I got out what I needed to say.
But what's the difference between what he's doing and the joy he feels after that, and something that's an unhealthy pursuit of? Is that a healthy pursuit? Is that he's getting a high and a joy from bringing people joy?
I think the only unhealthy thing Andrew's done here today is to think that to think that I am saying everyone should retire. So he's taking it personally, which is one of the 4 agreements. You're not supposed to take anything personally.
I'm not taking it personally. You are.
Is defensiveness?
No, not you are. No. In other words, I'm saying I am happier this way. I'm not prescribing this for you, but you are very angry at the end.
Yes, I am. I'm very upset.
As if I'm saying, oh, Andrew, get out now.
But I don't have enough money yet, Lisa. I don't have enough money yet.
He has been conditioned. He's Pavlov dogs by me because I have a lot of the same kind of things. A lot of the things you're saying, my listeners have heard me say in less articulate ways, more clunkily ways. But I don't have what you just described so much of. This is what works for me. I often come from a you should perspective, and he hears that all day. So I think that's that is why he's interpreting it that way. I've conditioned condition him to be that way, and I got to take responsibility for my part in that.
You do.
But you're
I
right.
blame
Like, but I also took that way too. When I heard that Lisa retired, I was like, boy, that looks nice. And I even remember doing the interview for Hysterical and saying she got out, knowing that I would never get out because it's not. I was not in a place ever that I realized anything in life could bring me as much joy as working myself to the bone and being the best and honestly never feeling like the best. No special, no review, no comedian who I was super like no Gary Goldman telling me that I was a great comic. No other great comics who I put on a pedestal complimenting me. None of it ever landed. I'm not kidding you. None of it. Never did I actually think like, you know, because people would say I was funny, and I could always go, well, they're not a comedian. They don't really know. They're like, yeah, I've tricked the masses. But when a comedian like Gary Goldman or like, you know, you or anyone would say I was funny, I would still think that I tricked you. You haven't seen me enough. You just like me because I was nice to you in a green room, and so you're going to say I'm funny. Like, I never let it in. Even the Netflix specials, the people at Netflix, I tricked them. They saw one good set where I followed someone who kind of set me up to kill. Like, it was always an excuse. And whether or not that's true, which, by the way, it can be true. Those things could have been true. They're probably not because that would be insane coincidences that everyone that's liked me has been tricked. But it could be true. Let's just say that. Even given that, I think that I've realized, and this is so interesting, and the point you made about like me being pretty young to discover these things, my friend Emil Joachim, he's 23 years old. He is just such a great comedic mind, diligent, kind, just one of our closest friends, young comic that I just was like, oh, this guy's gonna, if he sticks at it, he's gonna be famous no matter what. He recently got a commercial and JFL and all these things, and he said to me, I saw him recently, and he goes, can you just like talk to me about like what it's like to get things for you and like how it made you feel to like start getting things when you start getting things? And I was like, honestly, I know this is such a platitude, so trite, but it doesn't make you happy, and I truly know that now, and that's why I started to talk to him about like I want to get away from it. It's not doing it for me. And he goes, I gotta be honest, I feel that way. Like, and I don't want to say something that he wasn't. I'll check with him to make sure it's okay to say this, but he said to me, I was just like blown away that a 23-year-old had this kind of perspective. He goes, when I got JFL, when I got this commercial, I felt like an imposter. I felt the stress of having to live up to the expectations. My life is so much more worse now. Like my stress levels and my discomfort and my sleeplessness and my anxiety are so much worse because of these things that I thought I always wanted. And he goes, this is not a harbinger of good news for my future, of my goals. And I was like, yes, you see it. You've acknowledged it.
Right, but that's only part of the work because
it's first step.
You don't need to quit something. He doesn't need to now quit.
You just need to acknowledge it.
You need to get it and go to figure out why you have imposter syndrome and why you, Nikki, have imposter syndrome still after all that stuff. Because none of that, I mean, we all have imposter syndrome, definitely. If you don't, then you're just some self-centered douchebag.
You're a sociopath.
Yeah, so the fact is, we're all enough as we are.
That to me, Lisa, enough as we are. I got to stop you because I hear that all the time in my recovery, and I hear that in every book I read. God, you know, whether or not you believe in God, a lot of it is the way you were born is the way you're supposed to be. You're perfect the way you are. Right now, I have arrived there. I don't know how. It's been through a lot of step work, a lot of different things. It's gotten in. You know.
Yeah. Good.
But for someone who doesn't do that work, or maybe doesn't have an addiction where they find themselves in a room that they can get that kind of work done, how do you get to a place where you even can grasp the concept that how you came out is the way you're supposed to be? What if you came out a pedophile?
Well, you know what I did, and I worked on it, and I no longer molest children.
So honestly, though, what if you come out?
You didn't have to fully retire, though.
What if you come out a bad person?
I love that Andrew's going to give me career advice.
No, I'm saying every 3 months you can molest a kid. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well, I will. Probably.
Tell your manager you're open to auditioning young children.
It's about you, Lisa.
No,
but honestly, what does that mean for someone who, let's say pedophile, let's say someone who I used to feel ugly. Let's say someone is ugly and like they just are, because some people are ugly. What if you feel ugly and you go, I used to say to my mom, how could you have sex with dad knowing that somewhere your lineage could mix and make a child as ugly as me? Why would you inflict that on a human? And my mom used to be like, that is the weirdest thing. And I go, I'm so ugly. Why did you make me? How could you have done this? when and you aced it with Lauren. Your DNA mixed together. My sister got it. I felt so ugly. And there are times though, and I talked about this earlier with my body image, that you feel like, and I think a lot of people who are, trans or who just have like a body that they don't feel comfortable in, which that's why I've always related to the trans community, is because I truly feel like I wasn't supposed to be born in this body. I was supposed to be a supermodel. And I know that sounds nothing like, trans people are going to be like, yeah, right. I just want to be who I am. I truly felt like I deserved to be Giselle, like have her body. And I felt so angry at God, my parents, whatever it was that I had to be put into this earth, not that. How can someone who's born without legs say I'm perfect as I am when truly
I don't think it's perfect. I think that's what people get mixed up. No, I think what it is I had a shrink in my 20s. And again, I just turned 60.
We all had to shrink in our 20s.
Yes,
you had a shrink. Okay, I thought you were like, I had to shrink in my 20s. It's like, well, we all felt that pressure.
I've had a shrink for like 40 years, like different ones. And the first one had said to me, and it finally got in there somehow when I was about 50. She said, you're never going to be the best. You're never going to be the worst. You're never going to be the prettiest. You're never going to be the ugliest, but you're enough. And finally, after 30 more years of trying to do it with achievement and everything, I literally always kind of just think I'm enough. And I'm always sometimes I'm too much, like I know I'm too loud, and I'll notice myself at a party going, oh, why do I need attention? Like, gosh, let the other people talk. Or, oh, why am I introverting myself and not speaking at all? So it's adjusting every day and just noticing how you act.
And it's if you're
Nikki, you're never, I hate to tell you this, you're never going to be the prettiest. You're never going to be the ugliest.
You sound like my therapist, Donna. She used to go, you're not a beauty.
Yeah.
You're never going to be a model. You're average looking, and that's fine. And I used to go, how could you say that to me?
Wait, but I don't think she was right, because I don't think it's subjective. This is not math.
But you just said there's a best and the worst. Let's be honest. Like you just said, you're never going to be the best or the worst.
Because
so there
it's an
must
artificial,
be someone.
No, there's an artificial construct. It's not, no one, you could name who to you is the best looking, and I could disagree, and he could disagree, and it would be totally someone different. And the ugliest, I know couples who
Trump, we all agree, is the ugliest. I mean, like, I think that's what actually,
we're all right on that. But yeah, I just think in other words, all she was trying to say was to try to think of yourself as, because we go from I'm the worst human being, the ugliest, most disgusting piece of shit, to I'm the best, I'm the funniest.
I know, sometimes I'm the funniest and no one can touch me and I'm the best.
All you can do is when you notice yourself thinking, notice. If anybody does nothing from this podcast other than notice and go, I notice I'm having that thought that I'm like, I'm the fucking best. Go, you know
Noticing.
What? You know what? Yeah, you're really good. And
that's what I said earlier, Lisa. I've been doing this thing for my body image where when I see my leg and it's bigger than I want or paler or something, or my face is puffier, I told our listeners, I said, this new thing I've been doing it a while, and now it's become, like you said, the changing the I have got to I have to, and now you just say I get to. Yeah. And it's just you don't have to try it anymore. For a while I was forcing myself every time I would have a negative thought in the mirror to just go, well, you kind of look like a man today. And that is hilarious. And you know what? It's not always going to be, just to like have a sense, to just go, buddy, look at you, looking like a man. To not deny it and go, no, you're beautiful. You love yourself.
Yes,
I'm so tired of that shit, of like, love your body. You got to be like Lizzo, I can't overnight just love my body. And I'm not going to lie to women and create, because I feel threatened when I see a woman who is like, someone that I would assume has body image issues. And they're like, I love every part of myself. And I go, do you? Because you were on a juice cleanse 2 weeks ago, and you're lying to me. Be honest that some days you don't love your body, but like be light about it. Is that like?
I think humor, noticing, and then if humor helps you, that's a great tool. Because I always joke on myself about what a big lesbo I look like. I don't care. I'm never going to win a beauty contest, but sometimes I look in the mirror because I dress cool. I'm like, freaking nailing it. So you just go, but I'm not nailing it like for everybody else out there. I'm nailing it for me. So if I'm walking around at 60 years old thinking I'm okay, because really it's just like, I'm okay, I'm fine. And the humor does help, but I think the stuff about affirmations, I love myself, you can't go from I hate my body to I love my body.
You're lying to yourself. You're abandoning yourself.
That, But also, it's another thing not to live up to and another false expectation. So it's looking in the mirror going, I'm okay today. I'm fine as I am today. And again, eventually, maybe when I'm 80, I'll look in the mirror and go, oh, I love every part of me. Not today, and that's all right. So I think it's taking all that pressure, the platitudes off you, the positive vibes only, all that shit that doesn't work, and going, oh, I'm not great, I'm not terrible, but I'm fine. And
Talk to me
yes, go ahead.
About that, about aging, about abandoning the pursuit of being sexy, sexually desirable, fuckable. Because Lisa, you have been fuckable before. Like,
I don't know.
Yes, you have.
I don't think so.
You have. Well,
I always had boyfriends.
You at least were like you would embrace that feminine side of you. Yeah.
Yes, I always had boyfriends and husbands. So I always said there's nothing better than the dead husband, because it's proof you were hot enough to get somebody, and then you don't have to live with the fucking asshole. Right. So I'm at the dead husband place right now, because I'm like, I freaking have proof that I fucked before, but I don't have to like.
Wait, they're not dead though. Your ex-husbands?
They're dead in your mind.
No. They're
okay.
just
I know
now.
one that speaks so highly of you and just has so much love in his heart for you, and so that's so. Let me ask you about that. What about that?
Real quick, the aging part is so funny, because I always said, I'll never have surgery above the neck or Botox or anything, because I'm like, I can accept the face. Like, I think women have an easier time accepting their face, because it's a very weird process to have to go through a lot of stuff up here. So we're stuck with the same face the rest of our lives. So I just had the weight loss surgery from the neck down. I said, that's the only surgery I'll ever have. So I think because I have a young attitude.
Sorry, can I just...
Never.
So what was the weight loss surgery?
Remember, I had weight loss surgery 11 years ago. I lost 107 pounds.
Yeah, was it the lap band or was it like?
No, it was called the sleeve, where they
remove. And then did you have like surgery for the skin or anything like that? Okay, so to me that's not like cosmetic surgery, but I guess it was trying to achieve a cosmetic thing.
And health too. I mean, I didn't want to get diabetes,
but mostly health. Yeah.
So what happened was, I accept aging so easily, because I think I just was like, well, it's going to happen. Like, I'm not going to try to be something I'm not. So I think I don't shit on people who get surgery. It just, to me, seems like a sad pursuit that's never going to end well. It'd be like if I pursued being a violinist right now. That's a sad pursuit that's not going to end well. No, my neighbors would hate me. I wouldn't be good at it. And why the fuck am I doing it? That's, to me, facial surgery.
Hits me I just started pursuing guitar at a ripe old age, and I love it so much.
Good. If you love
it's honestly what I want to do. I want to transition to be a singer-songwriter, but I hear what you're saying in terms of like you're never what you're looking to get from violin or from fixing your face, which is love and acceptance of. If you're just fixing your face because you want to look like a shiny cat, like that's your goal, then yes, like do that. But if you're doing it to be more fuckable, that's gonna have diminishing returns. And this is the thing I talk about on stage a little bit, and it's actually giving me hope about stand-up right now, because the things we've talked about, I'm like, okay, you know what? I can talk about these things that I want to talk about and still be funny about them and ease into more serious stuff. But one of the points I make because I remember being in my 20s and just looking at older women or women in their 30s, 40s, and so on, not really beyond that, because that's just like, so I'll kill myself before that, because I was always just so depressed. But seeing women and just going, I'm just not gonna do that. Like, almost like you have a choice of like, I'm not gonna age. And I know that people in their 20s think they can opt out somehow. And with Bezos and his new like experiments he's doing, that potentially might be the case, that there's no more aging. But it will. It is inevitable. And unless you die, I want to go into our final thought. This will take us out. The thing that I really struggle with aging is that there's always something you can do that isn't the surgery, but it's something like it's a laser facial. Let's not say you're going under the knife, but
I'm just going to say,
there's
real
makeup.
Quick, makeup is great, because to me,
why is makeup okay?
For me, it is because it's not invasive. I'm not hurting myself.
Got it.
I would feel I'd be hurting myself physically, because as I told you, I'm adverse to physical risk. I think it'd hurt too much. Like, I have to get a colonoscopy next week, and I don't even want to go. I will, but I know it's for health.
A lot of lube.
So I can't wait. But I feel like, here's the thing. It's everybody's own choice. I have to say that because I'm woke. But I will say, all people have to do is question why. If you're doing it only for you and being brutally honest and really say, I'm doing it for me. If a guy on a desert island wants plastic surgery and just for him he doesn't see anyone, you go, oh, he's telling the truth. If I get it, I would be maybe thinking, what are other people thinking of me? So I have to look at my calendar every day. The why is more important than the how. So if I'm looking at my calendar every day and I'm going, why am I doing Nikki's podcast? I'll be 100% honest with you. I'll give you in order why.
Let's go.
I love Nikki. I feel like we're kind of aunt and niece in a way because
I go older sister, younger sister for me.
That's cute.
I just see, I want it to be that because I want to be at your level. I want to be like in your ballpark.
Okay, no, well, I just feel like I'm some old cunt who
no, not to me.
So I feel like, okay, first it was Nikki. The second reason I do the podcast is it's fun. The third thing is I'm trying to help these two comics with the podcast we're doing, shameless plug, Losers with a Dream, available everywhere. So those are fucking 3 great reasons to do this because also I love talking about myself and my journey because I think it might help someone. Plus, I'm incredibly self-centered.
Where am I on this list? I'm just wondering.
You're fifth.
I thought I was going to be 25th, to be honest.
We were going to let you keep going.
Yeah, I really wanted you to keep going to see if I ever even got in the top 50.
She forgot that you were on the show, and so she logged on today.
I was happy. I get to stare at your sassy legs because men sometimes have terrible legs. And yours are
no,
good.
he has great legs. They're enviable. Lisa, I love that.
Everything has intention.
Yes.
None of that was outer focused in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you might say, well, you're trying to help those guys on the podcast. Isn't that focused on them? I guess, but it makes me feel good to help. So I guess it's a zero-sum game.
Is going to help people. I listened to some Sam Harris podcast long ago about what your purpose is with your work. And if you can't look and see how it's helping others and making the world a better place, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
And I really, and we can always argue that comedy, people go, oh my God, you got me through the pandemic, your roast clips. And I'm just like, listen to when people, that's the thing. I want to just be clear. When people compliment me about my stand-up, it doesn't get in because I just feel like it is a magic act. And I have a harder time accepting those compliments. Right. When I get compliments about this podcast, it fills my soul in a way that I've never had it filled. And that is why this podcast has changed everything for me because it was conceived of the same reasons that you just listed. I want it to be fun. I want to do it with my friends. That's why I do it every day. They didn't even ask me to do it every day. Right. I could have gotten paid the same to do it once a week for an hour. And I do an hour and 20 plus minutes 4 times a week because it fills my soul. And I didn't even know that it was going to turn into something where we had a fan. It was always my dream to have a fan base of people and that's why I'm so glad to have you on the show because your podcast is exactly what my listeners are into. So I implore you all right now, just give it a subscribe. Like Lisa and I, when we quit stand up, we could always go back to it. You could subscribe to this and you can always unsubscribe if you don't like it. Just give it a subscribe.
If you don't, I blame you because not you, Nikki, your listeners, because you should like to go deep and laugh at the same time. And I think that's what the future of comedy really is. It's called
I'm going to give it a subscribe.
Like it.
And if you have time in your podcast life, give it a subscribe, listen to it and see if you like it because honestly, I'm so glad to have you on because this is... I realized when you mentioned that hysterical documentary, which, by the way, if you've not seen that, it's an FX documentary. It's on Hulu. It is so good. I'm so proud to be in it. And there's a lot of documentaries I'm in that I can't say the same about.
Me too.
We get asked to do a lot of these things. So this one is truly done so well and is so beautiful. And I watched my own scenes in that and I cried because I was like, this poor girl. I got to see myself in third person. But what I want to say is I'm realizing it now. You were the first one that planted the seed in my head that I could do something else and not have it come from a place of I'm just not, this isn't giving me what I want career-wise anymore. It's not giving me what my soul needs. And what my soul needs is not love and acceptance from others. It's that I know from recovery that giving back and being of service to others and trying to make people feel good about themselves and feel as good as I feel is the only way I feel good. I can't
100%.
feel good unless I give it back. And it took me so long to figure that out. But this podcast has allowed me to do that. And that's why I'm so freaking grateful for the listeners and that they get that. And we have some that don't, and I'll lose them. But, I'm going to lose fans. You probably have fans that are like, what the fuck are you doing now, Lisa? You abandoned us. How do you deal with that?
Oh, I crack up because I'm like, well, a secretary's allowed to retire. A businessman's allowed to retire. Like, why wasn't I? And I go, there are plenty of comics out there who are really funny. I hope you enjoy some of them, because it's like I can't control what people think. In the old days with my comedy, I always liked that it was love me or hate me. I wasn't ever, I like her. It was like I love her or I hate her. So I always liked that. So it's polarizing. Now it's just like, oh, I don't have to be polarizing. I could just be like, oh, that's fine if you don't like me. It's really, and it comes
That's
with
really
age.
hard to get
I think it comes with age, because, I'll see a comment. I rarely look at social media other than Instagram because it's fun. And if I'll see a bad comment, I'm like, oh, okay, that's okay. They don't like me, and I just delete it or whatever. So I think it's very interesting. It's working on yourself so much that you inarguably can like yourself a majority of the day. It's never going to be 100%.
No, it's not.
And the mood, by the way, liking every mood that comes in. I could be happy 1 minute, over painting the door, then sad the next time because I feel I let my dad down. So you embrace all the feelings. You have all the feelings, and they all pass eventually. So I think that's the stuff I like to talk about now, and why I like having a little platform for it. And I'm glad you do that on here, and don't just have some surfacey, funny podcast, because
I've done it before, and it served me, and I'm so grateful I had comedy to cut through and not feel the pain, because the pain would have killed me if I felt it back in the day.
Survival.
I can handle it now.
You know what they say? People can't be at their best when they're in survival mode. And you were in survival mode, so you weren't at your best, meaning you've defined best for you as soul-filling. It's not always funny. I was in survival mode up on that stage and on the TV appearances. I mean, I did the Tonight Show 13, 14 times, panel, just on the couch, just bang, 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 like Rickles, Rickles. And I was like, that's survival mode. So of course I wasn't at my best. And then I wasn't at my best off stage. But now I feel like, probably at least 60% of the time I could be at my best in my life.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, that feels pretty good. Hopefully when I'm 80, it'll be 80%. Who knows?
And you're right. It's like, I think that so much of self-help, people get discouraged because they're like, I had a bad mood. I yelled at my spouse. I hated my body that day. I ate too much. And it's like, you're going to have slips, and it's about just being like, that happened. And being gentle, being nice. You wouldn't, I always go back to, if you overeat, which is my, coping mechanism du jour. Now, instead of going, you dumb fat piece of shit, now you feel sick. Yeah. Instead of that, I just go, oh, babe, you had some feelings just now, and this helped you, and that's what you needed, and maybe don't do that next time, but if you do, it's okay. Why don't you just go why don't you sing a song or listen to one song, and if you want to go back to the food, you can, but just listen to one song, 3 minutes. Wow. And it's just, it's being gentle, because it's just...
People put it this way.
It's practice.
No one ever made permanent change by yelling at themselves or being yelled at. You make permanent change by being gentle. But the right parents understand that.
Yes.
So when we're I overeat at least once a day. I eat the small meals because of my stomach size. I have to eat like 6-7 times a day, very, very tiny amounts. At least one of those times out of 6, it'll be 2-3 bites too much, and I'll be like, Jesus Christ. And then I go, I guess you needed it. Okay.
Yes, I guess you needed it.
And you know what? One meal at a time. And you know what? I missed my smoothie yesterday. Oh no, am I going to die? No, I'll have one today. So it's
I guess
noticing.
You needed to miss it. I get that I guess you needed it is the perfect thing. Like, I guess you needed to just yell at yourself in the mirror. Like, be gentle with even the abusive things we do. I guess you needed that to smoke that weed. I guess you needed to slam that door or honk that horn or yell fuck you to that guy. Like, I guess I needed it. Forgive yourself, and then it will lead to less behavior like that. We've learned so much. Thank you, Lisa Lampanelli. Please go subscribe to her podcast, Losers with a Dream. I can't wait to give it a listen myself. Lisa, thank you so much for being here today. You just echo everything that I believe in, and are just going to make me go paint all the doors in my apartment and cry while I do it and feel so good about it.
I knew when I met you at Stern. Well, actually, I met you in Stanford and Sons. I didn't know because you were shy. Yeah. But when I met you at Stern, I said, she's somebody I'm going to have deep connection with. And I always am so grateful because there's so few comics that you can really talk about this stuff with. And I'm not friends with a lot of comics. So when I saw you on Bill Maher, I reached out to you. I was like, oh my God, that was so great. And I'm just thrilled for every step you're taking. I'm so fucking proud of your emotional growth and your stick-to-itiveness with that. And also just, man, if you could just be easy on yourself, it's fine.